What's going on, guys? It is Monday, December the 28th, and this is my news radar. So guys, in the early days of phones with folding OLED screens, one of the first ones, maybe the first one actually, if I stop and think about it for a moment, but definitely one of the first ones that we ever saw was one that was shown off by Chinese phone making giant Xiaomi. They showed off a phone that didn't just fold once, but actually folded twice. So this phone would actually fold, on one side and on the other side, leaving you with a squarish shaped phone when it's totally folded, and then basically a giant, long, narrow sort of tablet when unfolded. Now, interestingly enough, after Xiaomi showed this this design off, and actually had a functioning prototype, they showed it in a video, and it's been like 3 years ago or something crazy like that when they showed off that prototype. They've still not released a proper folding smartphone to this point. Now, Xiaomi has been releasing an absolute ton of other phones since then, and a lot of them have been really shockingly good. In fact, my wife Jessie used a Xiaomi Mi 9T Pro for over a year, and at the price that it came out at, I think we paid like $350 for this thing, and it was absolutely stellar, especially for that price. And the phones they put out here recently, like the 10T, I mean, just absolutely phenomenal looking phones at a really reasonable price. I cannot wait to see what Xiaomi actually releases in terms of folding smartphones, and I might not have to wait too much longer to find out. There's an article here from Gizmo China saying that 2021 we're going to be seeing 3 different kinds of folding phones coming from Xiaomi. Now, they do show the design I'm talking about here in this image, and this is quite a long time ago now. And I really thought this was an interesting design. Now, I'm not sure how I feel today about the idea of having the screens, always exposed. How easy to scratch are these things? I think the Samsung's method of keeping the fragile screens inside makes a lot of sense. And then as someone who uses a Surface Duo, my screens are unprotected. There's no screen protector on either one of these screens. And, it's closed all the time, so it's not really a big deal, and I have no scratches on this thing. As long as there's not like a rock or a piece of sand inside when you close it, you're not really gonna have to worry about too much. I think that is a good design as far as keeping your screens safe. So I don't know how I feel about this design. I mean, the edges there, you're gonna want to having, tons of scratches here on the sides, I would imagine. But I'm super interested to see what 3 kinds of foldables we're going to get from Xiaomi. Is it possible that we're going to get one of the rolling, scrolling kinds that we're seeing from Oppo, LG, Samsung are all rumored to have one of those in the works? Maybe something like the Z Fold. And who knows, maybe the Trifold will make an appearance. I cannot wait to see what Xiaomi does, because it's probably going to be much better than you think it's going to be, and it's probably going to be much cheaper than you think it should be if their past track record does hold up. Let me know what you guys think about Xiaomi as a general company. Have you used any of their devices in the past like we have in the Craig household? What has your experience been? Are you excited to see what Xiaomi does in the folding space? Let me know down there in the comments. Let's talk now about a little bit more in the world of rumors on the Surface Pro 8. I've shown off, where one made it onto eBay somehow. We've talked about specs and so forth. Well, let's talk a little bit deeper about specs. One of the Surface Pro 7s that I have is the i3 model that only came with 4 gigs of RAM. Now, that is the Windows 10 absolute base model. Can't go any lower than 4 gigs of RAM. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's blazingly fast, but it does still run relatively well. Look, if you open up Edge or Chrome and have 10 tabs going, you're going to max out your RAM, and it's going to start to slow down just a little bit. Obviously, of course, that's going to happen. A lot of people look at the 4 gig models and they say, wow, this is totally unusable. I don't know why anybody would ever want to buy that. That's part of the reason why I bought it, actually, was because I wanted to see, is it as bad as people say that it is? And no, it really isn't that bad. I've got an i5 with 8 gigs of RAM, and I bet you money if I put them side by side in front of you, didn't tell you which one was which, and just let you browse the web and do things, I bet you would not be able to tell me. It would be a coin toss as to which one would be which. Now, we're going to process a video, we're going to go play a game, okay, then you're going to be able to tell the difference. But just regular day-to-day stuff, not that big of a deal. That being said, even though they just launched the new Surface Laptop Go with a 4 gigs of RAM model, the rumors are now saying that they're going to now start offering an 8 gigs of RAM i3 model as an upgrade to the standard 4 gig RAM i3 model. If they can get that thing in the $800, as they did with the Surface Pro 7, $800 got you the tablet and the keyboard. If they could get $800 in that range, i3 and 8 gigs of RAM, I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of you guys may not think I'm telling the truth or think I'm stupid or something, but that i3 model from last year with 8 gigs of RAM, I promise you would be powerful enough for 95% of people 95% of the time. So I'm actually really excited to see an i3 8 gig RAM model of the Surface Pro 8, even if the Surface Pro 8 does appear to look pretty much unchanged from the Surface Pro 7, as we've talked about in the past. This is also something, the whole RAM thing is something that we've talked about on the Surface Duo as well. People get freaked out about 6 gigs of RAM on the Duo. So of course, 4 gigs of RAM on Windows, I will admit that is a bigger problem. 6 gigs of RAM on an Android device where you're running Android apps that don't take up that much RAM. People freak out because it's not 8 or 10 or 12. 6 is totally sufficient. I never use my Duo and think, oh God, the RAM is just totally full. I can pick up my Surface Duo and scroll way back to, YouTube Studio from how long ago was that? And oh my God, look at that. It's still in RAM. It didn't have to even reload, 6 gigs of RAM is not enough. However, on Windows is a very different animal. We're talking about a full desktop computer, so it's a bigger deal on Windows than on Android. What do you guys think about 4 gigs of RAM on Windows? Is it just totally insufficient? Have you used a Surface device with 4 gigs of RAM? I'd love to know what the comparison is there. I am also reminded of a video that Daniel Rubino did from Windows Central where he talked about the Surface Go 4 gig and 8 gig model, and he did this whole video showing off, we're going to talk about the 4 gig model and the 8 gig model, and he talked about how you could do all these things and all this stuff worked, and he showed off moving between apps, and then he revealed that he had actually been using the 4 gig model the entire time, and lo and behold, there were no real problems. But I know people like the more RAM the better. So what do you guys think about i3, 8 gigs of RAM? Do you think that's enough for most people, or am I crazy? And let's wrap this thing up with the thing that we all love to talk about on this YouTube channel, and that is the Surface Duo. We have a report here from WindowsLatest.com speculating about what Surface Duo 2, Surface 2.0, who knows, what it could have in terms of camera performance. I've talked at length, ad nauseum, about the camera on the Surface Duo. I know a lot of you guys think it's actually adequate. I tend to disagree. In really bright daylight, yeah, you can take some okay pictures. I've been using the Surface, I've been using the Gcam Go port, and to decrease the shutter lag. But if I ever want to take a picture of anything, well, look, you can see right over my head there on that tripod is a Pixel 3. That's what I used to take pictures with if I need to take a good picture. The Surface Duo is not going to be my device of choice. I still think that there's a software update coming for the Surface Duo to improve camera performance, but at the end of the day, the 11 megapixel camera that is in the Surface Duo is just never going to be a great camera. It's just, the sensor is too small. It's a cheap sensor. It's a small sensor in order to keep the thinness intact. It's what they had to go with. But there are rumors here that we may be getting something better. We're looking at a job listing. So they've got a job listing here, which shows as the responsibilities, collaboration with independent camera developers for new camera apps, expert knowledge of the Android camera stack, implementation of AI/ML and neural processing capability, and then 10 plus years of experience. When you look at the actual job listing itself, it does talk about exactly the things that they're talking about. They're talking about, look, they're hiring someone to make the camera better on an Android device. This really can only be one thing. This shouldn't surprise anybody. It's not like, people got the Surface Duo's camera in hand and thought, oh, this is totally adequate. No need to improve here. Well, no, of course, this is definitely a place that they need to improve. And I think that they know that they need to improve in terms of the camera performance on Surface Duo or Surface Duo 2, which apparently is codenamed Zeta. And I would actually, look, we're already Duo. If you want to call it Zeta, call it Zeta. I think that actually would be a pretty cool thing. They are also citing 2021 for a release date. I've seen that from a few different people as well. Now, personally, I'm hopeful that, that they're still continuing to work very heavily in their AI and their neural imaging, that sort of thing with the Surface Duo now, and that the app will get updated and that it'll be improved pretty dramatically. I still think that there's a lot of room to improve on the software side of the Surface Duo's camera, simply because I can install the Gcam Go and have a much faster shutter speed, and I can install a Gcam standard port and tweak it around and do all kinds of things to get it to barely run and take slightly better photos as well. So hopefully there's room for improvement, not just in a sequel to the Duo, but in the current original Duo. I'd love to know what you guys think about the camera. Is it just something, I mean, are you like me and you just don't really take pictures on your Duo? Are you fighting against it? Is it, what has your experience been with the Duo? Are you using a Gcam port? Are you using Gcam Go? I'd love to know the answers to those questions. What do you think about, does the Duo actually need an outward facing camera as shown in one of these prototypes? Personally, I would love to have a better camera module facing out, and I would actually sacrifice some thinness for a better camera module. This thing is super, super thin, but that thinness, people have paid a price for that because the USB-C port is cracking for people. So maybe this thinness, maybe they went a little bit too far. Maybe they can actually make this thing just a little bit thicker. Look, think about one thing though, you make it a millimeter thicker when you fold it. Now it's 2 millimeters thicker because it's folded over. But if they can make this thing a little bit thicker, add another camera to face outward, make it a couple of better camera sensors, I think that would be probably a trade-off that most people would make, but I would love to know your guys' thoughts about that in the comments down below. So guys, that is all the news I have for you today. Be sure to check back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the next news radar. Stay tuned for more coverage just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends. If you enjoy my content, please consider becoming a Scary If Literal member. You'll get access to a whole bunch of emoticons to use with live streams and a shout out on an upcoming video. Thanks as always for your continued support.